Today we'll start with the first chapter, that is information system concepts. To understand information system concepts, let us break the word into two: information and systems. We'll first understand what is a system, then we'll understand what is information, and then we'll combine these two terms to understand what is an information system. So first and foremost, let us understand what is a system. A system is a set of interrelated elements that operate collectively to achieve some common purpose or goal. A set of interrelated elements that operate collectively to achieve some common purpose or goal. The finest example of a system for us to understand can be a manufacturing company. Now, what is a manufacturing company? A manufacturing company is an entity which buys raw materials, it does some processing and converts these into finished goods. There are three stages: buying raw materials, doing processing and converting this into finished goods. And obviously there is overheads involved, there are other aspects also. So a manufacturing company is a very good example of a system where a set of interrelated elements such as materials, machine and men operate collectively to achieve a common purpose or goal. From this comes the definition of a system. Now, once we have understood the system, then let's take an example of what information is. Information is data that have been processed into something meaningful. After you qualify as a chartered accountant, let us assume you go and join a large company as head of finance. Your CEO calls you one fine day and tells you that, what are my sales for financial year 12-13? You tell him, very fine sir, I'll just let you know. You go back to your desk, you pull out the sales ledger, there are 1000 invoices, you take a printout of all the 1000 invoices, you get a spiral binding done and you get it to the CEO. You tell him, sir, these are my sales for financial year 12-13. Is that correct, my friend? No, that is not correct. That is nothing but raw data. What the CEO wants is information, not data. Then what is information? Now you do the job in a better manner. You summarize the entire sales for financial year 12-13. You tell him that my total sales are 25 crore rupees. You also tell him the breakup of the sales. Product A 10 crores, product B 8 crores, product C 7 crores. You also tell him the region wise breakup. North India 10 crores, West India 8 crores, maybe East India again 7 crores. The total again comes out to be 25 crores. You also give him further information. You tell him last year we had sales of 27 crores. This year the sales have fallen to 25 crores. Our target was 28 crores, but we have not been able to achieve the targets. So this is something more useful and this is what is known as information. So data that has been put into something meaningful is known as information. Data is something raw and information is something finished, and that conversion is done from a raw data to a final finished product, that is an information. For example, another example could be data regarding sales by various salesmen could be summarized to give a better picture as to which salesperson or which sales team is making better sales. Now that we have understood the two concepts, information plus system, let us combine those two terms to derive another term, that is information system. System, to repeat, is a set of interrelated elements that operate collectively to achieve a common purpose or goal. And information is data that has been converted into meaningful form. So when you combine the two terms, another term comes out, information system. That is a system where interrelated elements operate collectively to achieve the goal of providing information is known as an information system. A manufacturing company is a system, but a manufacturing company's computers as a whole are its information system. You need to be very clear about the difference between the two. A manufacturing company is a system, but a manufacturing company's accounting systems or other systems are information systems. A manufacturing company's goal is to produce goods, and a manufacturing company's information systems goal is to produce information. So all information systems are systems, but all systems might not be information systems. So when you combine the two terms, it is known as an information system. After we have understood system, we have done information, we have done information system. The next term which comes into light is computer based information system. We are not saying that information systems can only be computerized. There have been manual information systems also. For example, a very small shopkeeper who's running a grocery shop, he also has a system of recording information. Whenever he buys any items, he might be summarizing them in a ledger. He might also be maintaining a cash book and a bank book in manual form. That is also a system. At the end of the year, he can also generate his balance sheet. He can also generate his profit and loss account. But that system is a manual system. What we are talking about of now is a computer based information systems. Two examples which will help us to understand these things are an accounting system such as a Tally or any ERP, which could be a SAP, Oracle or BAN. These are very good examples of computer based information systems. What is Tally? What is the object of Tally? We are all from the accounting background. We know that Tally is a system which records entries, accounting entries, processes them and generates information. That is, it generates a profit and loss account, a balance sheet, a cash flow, etc. Similarly, in ERP also records certain transactions and generates financial and other information for us. These systems which use computer effectively are known as computer based information systems. From this, the definition of CBI is, as we generally call it, which says that it is a combination of people, IT and business processes that help achieve management in taking important decisions to carry out business successfully. So we have studied about four terms. We have studied about what is a system, we have studied about what is information, we have studied about information system, and we have studied about computer based information systems. My friend, you have to be very clear about these four terms, because these four terms lay the foundation of your entire syllabus, entire 8 chapters which we are going to cover in next few days. These four terms, systems, information, information system and computer based information systems, have to be very clear in your mind. Now we move on to the next topic, that is general model of a system. I gave you the example of a manufacturing company buying raw materials, doing processing and churning out finished goods. And then I gave you an example of an accounting system, say Tally, in which you input accounting entries, they are processed, and final output is your balance sheet, profit and loss and cash flows. So from these terms, we can now explain a system in form of a general model. So a general model has got input, processing and output. For a manufacturing company, raw materials are input, processing means production and output means finished goods. For an accounting system like Tally, input means the accounting entries which go in, processing means whatever the tally does, and output means profit and loss, balance sheet, etc. And there are two more terms, that is storage and feedback. Storage means the data or the information is stored in different forms, and whenever an output has an impact on the input, that is known as feedback. So these 5 terms explain what is known as a general model of a system, in which we talk about inputs, processing, output, storage and feedback. To go by definition, input is the data. To go by definition for information system, input is the data flowing into the system. Processing is the action of manipulating input into a more useful form. Output is the information flowing out of the system. Storage is a means of holding information in a system, and feedback occurs when the outcome has an influence on the input. So these 5 terms explain what is known as a general model of a system. Along with general model of a system, another concept that flows in is steps followed in an information systems. This is not very different from a general model. In fact, I would say this is a different version of a general model of a system. Steps followed in an information systems. What could be these steps? These steps are input step, processing step and output step. You have to be very careful. These are 2 different questions, but very similar to each other. One was talking about general model of a system, and one is talking about steps followed in an information systems. A general model of a system would meet input, processing, output, storage and feedback, and steps followed in information system would meet input step, processing step and output step. So input step means data is collected in from within the organization or from the external environment and converted into a suitable form. The processing step means that conversion of these inputs happens, which transform the input data into something more useful. And output step, the output generated is either communicated to the user or some other department, or it is stored for future reference. So these are 2 different questions, very similar in content, but the questions are different. One talks about general model of a system and other talks about steps to be followed in information systems. And you have to be very careful while attempting this question that what exactly has been asked. Once we have understood all these terms, now we'll understand about different types of systems. We have categorized all the systems into 4 broad categories. We'll try to divide system in 4 broad categories. First is according to elements. We can categorize a system as a abstract system or a physical system. Then we'll try to categorize a system in the way it interacts with the external environment. That is how the interactive behavior of the system goes. In this, we'll divide the system into 2 categories: open system or a closed system. Thirdly, we'll try to categorize our systems in form of human intervention. It could be a manual system or it could be a computer-based system. And last but definitely not the least, we'll try to categorize the systems on the basis of working, that is probabilistic system or a deterministic system. First, let us take up let's try to divide the systems into 2 forms, that is abstract versus physical. To understand abstract system, I'll go you through a process of procurement. That process will help us to understand what is an abstract system. What is procurement, my friends? Procurement is buying of raw materials in a company. I would again and again give you the examples of a manufacturing company. The very reason and the very logic behind that is that a manufacturing company gives us a better picture and more clarity in our thoughts. It is not that these concepts are not applicable to a service sector or a trading company, But my reason for giving you the examples of manufacturing companies that we can relate more to these. But as I said, these are equally applicable to a trading company or even a service sector company with some variations. So what is procurement process? Now the same manufacturing company decides or requires certain raw materials for its production. So there has to be a way in which it will order it. First, it will receive a purchase indent, a document which says that certain materials are required. Based on the indent, it will generate, let us say, 3 copies of a document which is known as a purchase order. A purchase order is nothing but an order which has to be placed with an outside vendor for supply of raw materials. Once the purchase order has been generated, it has to be verified by some other person, let us say a purchase manager. And after that, 3 copies of POs are generated. 1 copy would go to the supplier, 1 copy would go to accounts, and 1 copy would be retained by the department. When we draw this process, it is in a form of a flow chart. That is what an abstract system is. We may call it a flow chart, we may call it a business model, we may call it by any other name, but we can also call it by what is known as an abstract system. So abstract system is nothing but a flow chart or a drawing of the entire system. So the definition comes from this is abstract system or conceptual system or a model system or an intangible system is an orderly arrangement of ideas, independent or interdependent ideas. An abstract system or a model is a representation of a real or a planned system. Maybe we are planning that we will have this procurement process in place, or maybe we already have this procurement process in place and now we are trying to draw that. That is an abstract system. The use of models makes it easier for the analyst to visualize relationships in the study. For example, if we have a very clear flow chart or a drawing given, which is easier for us to understand that what this model or drawing is talking about. That is an abstract system. And when we translate this abstract system into more physical terms and things, that is known as a physical systems. Now this process would actually be done also. There would be printouts coming out for purchase orders, people would be physically signing, documents would be sent to the vendors, that entire setup, computers would be used. That is known as a physical systems. When we were only talking about the flow chart or a drawing or a model, that was referred to as an abstract system. So physical system is a set of elements which operate together to accomplish an objective. Physical systems are tangible entities. Other examples of physical systems could be your computer systems or your transportation systems. Second categorization after this is open versus closed systems. As the name suggests, open means something, a system which interacts freely with the external environment. And a closed system means a system which does not interact freely with the external environment. At this stage, it is important to understand what is an external environment. External environment means anything outside the system. For example, the manufacturing company does not work in isolation. It deals with a lot of people. We buy raw materials from whom? From vendors. We sell finished goods to whom? To customers. Are these suppliers and customers part of our organization? No. But that does not mean we do not interact with people outside. We need them. We require support from them. So these people which are outside our system, but when we interact freely with them, that system is known as an open system.